Hey, deserving listeners, Colt on 90 Day Fiancé, The Single Life. Let's watch.
We don't need to be like, 1, 2, 4, 5.
I don't know, but you're okay with...
Whatever, it might happen.
I do feel a little pressured now that I'm your girlfriend, that I have to, give you a lot more sex. So I think that's also causing me some anxiety. Like I have to check off the...
Like it's a job?
Good. Up until this point, at least what they've been showing us on the show, is a lot of yelling at each other or judging each other. And now they're actually having a wonderful conversation. She's saying, I think, now that I'm with you and we're boyfriend-girlfriend, I feel a lot more obligated to have sex with you. And I know I don't want to have sex as much as you want to have sex. The question I have is, if she were left to her own devices, how often would she want to have sex? Because we haven't really heard from her regarding how often. It sounds like she is compromising by having sex once a day with him. It sounds like she would like to have sex less often than that, which is, could be a bad thing because it could be causing her to associate sex with obligation or a job, which they're talking about right now. So good. So let's see what Colt can say in response to this.
Yeah.
Obligation.
Yeah. And I'm like, if I don't do it, then you might go cheat.
Right. That was my speculation, was that as they were talking about their libido difference, she was having a lot of fears about him cheating on her, because that's a common misconception. Now, it's absolutely possible that if there is a libido difference, a high libido person might cheat as a way of getting their sexual needs met, but that's not often the case. I mean, infidelity is a pretty common thing, but in my experience, that's not usually, I don't usually worry about that when I see libido difference. What I do worry about is people being hurt, having their feelings hurt, and then that compounding over time, years, and then infidelity happens there, or breakups happen from that point. But anyway, so she's worried about that, and so she feels pressured into having sex. So we're creating a situation where he isn't getting his needs met because he wants to have sex a lot, which I'm guessing is a manifestation of his need for attachment that he's funneling into sex. I don't know. I'd have to ask him. And then for her, the sexual activity is always an obligation, and she's doing it out of fear instead of out of sexual desire or wanting to connect with him. And that is going to drive a wedge between us. A very, very common dynamic in relationships that can, you need to nip in the bud. You need to really get it early. You need to intervene early so that they don't go down this road for years and associate sex with all this negativity between the two of them.
Colt likes sex way more than any man I've ever met. I want to make Colt happy, but I don't think it'll ever be enough for him. And if he doesn't get it, he'll look for it somewhere else. It makes me not confident in our relationship. So I am worried about that.
Right. That's the destructive power of cheating and lying, which is that, well, if you didn't know, while Colt was with Jess, he was cheating with Vanessa, and now he's with Vanessa, and Vanessa knows Colt to be someone who cheats. And now Vanessa is worried that he is going to cheat on her. And this is the destructive power of lying and cheating, which is to set this precedent that you're capable of that, and everyone now is worried you're going to do it to them, which can cause people to be distant, which can cause you, the Colts of the world, not to be able to get your attachment needs met, which causes you to maybe want to cheat more often and lie more often. It's just a vicious cycle.
Vanessa?
What the fuck are you doing? Jesus.
Want to get married?
Pro tip, never propose with a ring near water. I've seen too many YouTube videos on Reddit where people will drop the ring into the lake and it will never be found. Although that looks like maybe shallow water, but yeah. Never propose where there's water or near a cliff. I've seen too many videos.
Yeah, you can stand up, yes.
These aren't what they used to be.
We have all these, I don't know.
Problems?
We have problems,
So what?
and this is the right time for you
We're
to
going to
ask.
have problems throughout our entire life, I promise you. But I promise you that we can work through them and communicate and face any challenges, honestly.
It's interesting to see Colt with three different people. We saw him with Larissa, we saw him with Jess, and now we're seeing him with Vanessa. And I don't know, they edit the show pretty heavily. It's hard to know, but it looks like he is much more compatible with Vanessa than he was with Larissa and Jess. So I wonder what this show would be like if he had if Larissa's personality was more like Vanessa's. I wonder if we would have a completely different viewpoint of him. Because, one of the perspectives that I have acquired over the years is that you push people enough, everyone will exhibit a dark side to themselves. Now, some people's dark sides are more elaborate than others, but it's possible that Colt is generally a good person, generally someone that has empathy, generally someone who is altruistic and nice enough anyway. But the way that him and Larissa came together, the way that he and Jess came together caused him and the other person, incidentally, to exhibit a lot of their darker side. And with Vanessa, we don't see that. I've actually seen quite a lot of functional behaviors from him. Now, maybe it's all some master manipulation. Maybe he's a complete psychopath. I don't know. It certainly doesn't exhibit that on this show. It looks more like when you trigger each other, him and Larissa would trigger each other, him and Jess would trigger each other, and both of them would exhibit behaviors that were, tough to watch. Now, that does not justify his behaviors. He was abusive in the past. He was quite aggressive in the past. He would lie, just flat out lie to Larissa, particularly Jess. So there's no excuse for that. But I wonder if, the question I have is, the two of them, Vanessa and Colt, let's say they get married and they stay married for the next 20 years. If we were to ask them, particularly Vanessa at the end of that span of time, what do you think of Colt? She'd be like, well, he's got his problems, but, he's a good guy and we've had a wonderful relationship. I wonder if that would actually happen. And I've seen that before where people struggle in, if you're one of those people out there where you're looking for the right person and it just never works out. You just incompatibility after incompatibility, or you meet the wrong person and it just seems like it's never going to work. But then you find that right person and it just works. And this is why sometimes when I'm talking with my clients about dating, because sometimes that is a topic that I'll talk with clients about, that I'll say it's kind of a numbers game. Meaning that you're rolling some dice, like you have 10 six-sided dice in your hand, and you're trying to get all sixes, or you're trying to get 8 out of 10 sixes. There's not a very high likelihood of getting it. Now, some people get it on the first roll. They meet the love of their life when they're 16 years old, and they got 10 sixes on that first roll. That happens statistically. But sometimes you got to roll that bag of dice 500 times literally before you get 8 out of 10 sixes and you meet that right person. And maybe it just took Colt a long time to find the right person. And so that's why I tell people, keep trying. If it is your goal to meet the soulmate person or the right one or someone that's compatible or someone that works, sometimes it just means you have to swipe right a lot. And trial and error. Now, that has its downside, of course, because you can experience a lot of situations where you have to dump someone or they have to dump you, or you have to sit through incredibly boring first dates or whatever. But it is something that I will tell people of just like, if you're up for it, you have to keep at it. Now, sometimes it's okay to take a break, of course. Some people are like, I need a break because this dating stuff is too much. But anyway, my point is I wonder, because we've been speculating about Colt's personality, and I wonder if his issues aren't going to be triggered as much by Vanessa, because they don't seem to be, and he will exhibit much better, more functional behaviors with her. It's interesting to think about.
You're ready to be a husband again?
Yeah. In every way possible, I'm closer to you than I ever was to my ex-wife.
I wasn't expecting you to ask me. Not this soon. I don't feel like I'm that ready to get married yet.
Okay, so if you've listened to my episodes on love bombing, I did audio episodes about love bombing and I talked about Big Ed in this way. So the key difference between someone that just really loves you and wants to move fast and love bombing, which is either a conscious manipulation or an unconscious desperation, it's usually the latter. The difference between those two is that when Vanessa's like, oh, this is going too fast. Maybe one day I'll want to be engaged to you, but this is going too fast. So the key is how will Colt react to this? If he's flexible and respectful, maybe he's a little hurt, but he's okay with it, then that is not love bombing. He is just really wanting to marry her, and he's really into her. He really wants to make this happen. But love bombing is defined by what happens next. Let's watch.
That you're consistent and that you're not gonna fuck around. I want to make sure that this is you for good.
Yeah. You're worth it. I love you.
Okay, well, we didn't really get the litmus test that at least I was hoping for, because she is essentially saying, yes, I will agree to be engaged to you if you allow our engagement to be long, which she's defining as a year, which I would say is kind of a typical engagement in my sphere anyway. So we're not really given an opportunity. If she would have said, and it's fine, she can say whatever she wants, but if she would have said, no, here's the ring back, and let's talk about engagement in the future, then it would have been a good litmus test to see how he would have reacted. If he would have said, yeah, you're worth waiting for, that's fine, take your time, I'm just really in love with you and I want to get married, so just let it be known that that's out there. Let me know when you want to start to get engaged. Or if he got angry or punishing or blaming of her or tried to, trick her into getting married or pressuring her to get engaged, then we're looking at a situation where someone is either subconsciously love bombing, meaning that they're desperate for signs of security and they will push and push and push too fast, or a conscious effort at love bombing, which is a psychopathic manipulation to try to gain control. So we didn't get a test for that, so oh well.
Yeah. You're my fiance now if you say yes.
Yes, I'll be your fiance. Oh my God. Holy fuck. Seriously. No fucking.
All right, well, that does it for that episode. Everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.